He has like a list of like 700 video ideas.
What does your team look like now?
No cellular service, no Wi-Fi.
Do you have like a worst video, least favorite video?
What would it actually cost to cross America?
Was their life sustainable during all of these things?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Ryan Trahan is one of YouTube's most beloved creators. And in today's episode of Gimbal, I'm speaking with his creative director. Preston White has been with Ryan for 4 years, and together they have amassed nearly 1 billion views across all videos. He's traveled across the country with Ryan to give a penny to Mr. Beast. He's taken the Penny series international and produced the entire thing. And just recently, he helped Ryan and Ryan's wife, Haley, make a 50 states in 50 days series across America. That video series raised over $12 million for St. Jude's Hospital and was seen by almost 200 million people. Preston is a legend in the space, and I'm so excited for you to watch this conversation. Let's get into it. Okay, Preston, welcome to the show. My first question is, how did you get into this industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of crazy. I was working in geotechnical engineering before this, and I just applied to be a contestant on one of Ryan's series he was doing back when his channel was smaller. And then me and Zach, our editor, were both contestants on that series, and that's how we all got connected. And then, 6 months later, it was interesting. He just posted on his story first, actually, and he was like, hey, if there's anyone in Austin that wants to work in YouTube, hit me up. And I just texted him, and I didn't even know what he was looking for really, but I was like, I am super interested. And he called me, and then we just talked on the phone. He was looking for a producer, and, I didn't have any necessarily background, but I was super passionate about it. And even though I was working in geotechnical engineering, I never wanted to stay in that. I'm a creative person at heart, and that job is, it's math and science, and there's no room for creativity over there, so it was like, it was kind of a dream come true to, be able to move into this.
When was this? When was the shift from moving into Ryan's team?
2021, end of 2021. My first day was September 20th or something like that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Are there any skills from geotechnical engineering that are helpful for you now that carried over?
I think really the only one is project management, just talking to clients and managing 3 or 4 projects at the same time, and just, just knowing where each project is and each of its steps and kind of being able to manage that. Other than that, there was really not much crossover at all.
So I want to talk about the vlog series in just a couple minutes, but tell me about what the usual process looks like for a standard Ryan Trahan video. What does your involvement look like from start to finish?
Every Monday we have a team meeting, and we'll kind of do some ideation, and we'll sit down and we'll just come up with a bunch of ideas. Or, a lot of times it's Ryan. He'll just, on his free time, he has a list of 700 video ideas that he just rapid fires, and he just picks a few of his favorites, and we all vote. And then we kind of flesh out a little bit, some of them, and then we kind of decide. And from that point, that's whenever my job really steps in, and he's like, okay, start figuring out, it depends on the video, right? But figuring out locations, figure out logistics. I would like it done, filmed during this time so we can post by this time. And I would like it to be in this many days. So I go in and I flesh out different, with the 1 star, I'll go on Yelp and I'll just, kind of scroll 1 million different restaurants or whatever it may be, hotels, theme parks, and try to find funny reviews. From that point, I'm starting to use, a lot of the creative direction there of what is going to make the best content? What's going to be the best backdrop for this? Even if this is good content, is it going to look right? Is it going to be something that the audience wants to see? Then I'll present that to Ryan. I'll book everything. He'll go film, and then it's editing, and then I'll help, review edits and things like that. And then finally post.
Nice. And that all happens relatively quickly by the sounds of it.
Yeah, relatively quickly. It kind of fluctuates. There's sometimes where we'll do batch films, or we're 2 months ahead on planning. And then there's sometimes where we'll throw something in, and it's we're posting in 3 weeks and we want to film this week. So it's pretty dynamic. I mean, YouTube is just that way in general.
Sure. So you talked about ideation meetings on Monday, and it sounds like Ryan kind of leads the charge there, but you also bring ideas and you critique ideas. How do you know what's a good idea versus a mediocre idea?
I think the number one question is, can we see Ryan doing this? You know, that's like, because he has such a specific brand and personality type. So, you know, the first filter that we run through is, would Ryan do this? Would this make sense for someone to watch and be like, yeah, that totally makes sense for Ryan to do? Or if it's not something he would necessarily do, is it funny because of his personality type, you know? And we haven't done that a lot, but there is a level of that. And then it'd be, well, okay, what's going to be the exact title structure going to look like that maybe dips into a niche, but still keeps it broad and, you know, gets us hopefully in the end 30 to 40 million views or whatever it may be.
How much emphasis on like the titles and packaging and all of that happens early on?
Almost all of it. I mean, it's like Ryan's biggest stressor and stress towards everyone that we work with and everyone on the team is packaging is everything. He is super passionate about packaging, and sometimes we'll decide a video because the thumbnail's a banger. You know, if we are presenting ideas and it's like the title's meh, but then the thumbnail is crazy, he'll be like, let's workshop titles. I'm doing this idea. So packaging is like 90% of it. And then the content comes in a little later, you know. Me and Ryan will sit down and we'll do some brainstorming on B plots and jokes and shots and things like that.
How do you like present the packaging? Do you like sketch it out, or we've started doing like AI generated like examples and stuff?
Yeah. We have a guy who's gotten so talented at the AI generation of presenting like an idea or a subject or whatever that none of us even really try anymore. We have him. It's like, oh, we have this idea. Can you flesh this out and present like a thumbnail that would be awesome? And usually it is. So
if there's a topic that's really popular on YouTube or there's a clear trend, is that something that your team would lean into and follow the trend? Or is that actually like, hey, we got to steer clear of this one?
I don't think there's necessarily as much of a steer clear. I think there's just a sense of stressing evergreen content. We want something that is still going to be pulling pretty good amount of views in like a year, you know, like we just had the metaverse video hit 50 mil earlier this year, and that's been growing for 3 years now. Right. So it's an idea that maybe, you know, obviously like I survived 100 days in the metaverse, like I survived is not really a trend anymore on YouTube, but the idea is something that's so evergreen that it's been garnering views constantly and consistently over years. So we're not necessarily avoiding trends. You know, if there's a certain world that seems to be at the forefront, we will lean into it, but we'll never go full trend, right? It's definitely something that we don't want quick views. We want long-term views.
I want to ask you about your team. It's pretty well documented that it's yourself, Ryan, and Zach. Prior to you joining the team, it was a handful of other people, and then Ryan downsized. What does your team look like now? Is it still the three? Because I saw the end of when you guys were in Hawaii, there was lots of you.
Yeah, there was lots of us, but that was all friends. It's us three, and then we have a co-editor in Cohen, and we have an in-house manager in James. But that's the whole team. So just 5 of us.
And is that the right play? It sounds like you guys are handling everything appropriately.
Right. I'm a big proponent of small teams, especially in YouTube. Where it all started, right, is like you're making videos and you're just posting them online, right? And I think that there's some value in sticking with the originality of what made YouTube and what makes it different from standard television or traditional media. And I think that there's a lot of value in having people who are extremely bought into the end product. And that's the case we find with us because we all feel like even if our names are not directly tied to it, our reputations are. And therefore, it's not like we're just coming in and doing a job 8 to 5, leaving and then not caring, right? It's like we deeply care about everything that we touch. And I think that having a small team contributes to that. Not everyone like Dude Perfect or whatever, they're obviously running a completely different operation up there. Sure. But for majority of people who are making content like ours, I would always suggest a small team.
Okay, I want to talk about the Penny series, and I want to talk about the 50 States series. But first, with the Penny series, can you give me a little bit of context of where that came from and your role in that entire process?
Yeah, so Ryan actually came up with, I mean, he came up with the idea himself because he did a couple Penny series before that, right? There was like a
Like
Penny
individual
$2,000.
videos. Right.
Yeah, and then he did the 1 week series in Fredericksburg, which was 7 videos. But we were filming, like I survived 100 hours in darkness or whatever, one of our lower performing videos. But we were sitting there in that house. Ryan just like was like, we should do a 30-day daily series where we post every single day and like have it be live and let it be something that the audience feels like they're a part of. And then he just threw out the idea of like, well, let's do a Penny series. It's worked for me in the past and it would be crazy. And then we started to flesh out the idea of like, well, let's go across the country. Let's take a Penny to Mr. Beast, and lots of these ideas that make it bigger than what he was doing in Fredericksburg, just surviving. It was like, now he has to travel. Now he has an end goal. We have a big thing we're searching for, even though every video is going to have its own little subplots. There is an overarching plot that ties all 30 videos together. And from that point on, it just kind of was like, okay, well, for me, it was like, well, let's figure out what would it actually cost to cross America. What are the ticket prices going to look like? What are the cities that we kind of want to go to? How long do we want to be in every city? Do we want to keep this constantly moving? Which we ended up doing, like, right, sitting in each city for 4 or 5 days. And obviously a huge part of that is, did Ryan make enough money? But there was like a relative plan, right, of like, well, it's probably going to take this many days. Here's a few options of what the tickets are going to cost. So we had a general idea of what everything was going to be beforehand. And we definitely knew what cities we wanted to go to based on research on flights and costs and good flight times, things like that. And then once we had that relatively planned out, it was just me driving the van, filming with Ryan, obviously any of his man on the street stuff, running a mile in the Vegas heat with him or whatever, things like that. And then just making sure Zach had everything he needed to edit in the van and just make it all the way to the finish line. So yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was like 1,700 miles or something that summer. So it was crazy. Yeah.
What is like the order of like when you're choosing places to go versus like shots to get? What is the order of like your planning?
It's kind of like casting a wide net at first. It's just getting a bunch of different things and then looking at them side by side and saying, well, what's going to make the best backdrop, or what's going to make the most interesting backdrop, and what's going to challenge Ryan the most, or put him in a position where he can, in a lot of cases, have a lot of social interaction, which is, partially the lifeblood of our channel.
When you were going through the Penny series, you were filming one day and then releasing that a couple days later. What were some things that took place in those early days? Like, were you constantly looking back at day 1 and day 2 and saying, okay, these were great, here's how do we improve it further? Like, what was the difference between day 1 and day 30 with the Penny series creatively?
When we started, we had obviously like a very quote unquote strict idea of what the videos were going to be and how they were going to be fleshed out and how generally long each segment was going to be. But as time went on, we just started to discover things like we really don't have that much control over how things are going to go down or what people we're going to talk to. We almost let the chaos take over. And you can kind of see that once you start to get to about like day 12 to 15, you could start to see Ryan get a little like loopy. And we decided to like just lean into that, just like let's stop, and also to save Zach and let him run to the finish line in a way that is sustainable and also just gets us videos out on time. Let's not caption anymore. Let's not worry about intense edits, punch-ins, things like that. Let's let the videos be raw more, and let's let moments breathe. And really just like almost like lowering quote unquote standards, because it was like, well, we're not posting once every 2 weeks. We're posting once a day. And people are sitting down and they're eating meals to watch this video, or they're sitting down with their families and they're loving the live nature and the raw realness of seeing Ryan, and in spots where maybe like we weren't supposed to be filming yet, but we were like, that's hilarious, leave that in. So it almost is like a lowering of standards in a way, or at least just changing a frame of mind towards like, a daily posting schedule versus we're trying to make a all-time banger on YouTube, you know?
Right. And that was at a time when like kind of the opposite was happening on YouTube. Like everything was super optimized, the beastification,
Right.
everything was super quick. So you were making these decisions to kind of go against the grain.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty scary. You know, whenever we started, we were like, if we get 500,000 views a day, this is a success. And if it flops, we can't quit. You know, so it's like there's going to be 30 videos going up no matter what.
True.
So there was a big like fear of like, man, if this gets 100K a day, like this is going to be rough. This is going to be really hard. And yeah, like you were saying, there was like the beastification. There was extremely optimized videos going out. So we did take a large risk, but we felt like it was something that the world needed at the time. You know, everything was moving in such a breakneck pace towards nothingness. And we felt like being able to lean into the storytelling of day-to-day life and overarching stories with little mini arcs in every single day and challenges and things like that was something that people were actually craving. And that's why they were watching so much of the fast-paced content, right? Was they were actually looking to get fulfilled by something, but they were never finding it. So we figured we'd reach out into the more storytelling world and try to actually fulfill people.
What did you learn from the original Penny series that you applied to that second Penny series to make things easier or better?
A lot of what we learned is that you can almost guarantee people's generosity. So there was a lot less stress on like, are we going to get this done? And a lot more focus on how are we going to make this look the coolest? Like, how are we going to show the most of these really cool places that some people might not ever see? You know, it's like we're going to London, Paris, Amsterdam, Ireland. Like these are crazy places that people might not ever get to see. And they're such visually stunning places that we got to focus a lot more on like, well, no matter where we go, we're going to find someone who's extra generous and we're going to end up making the money so we can spend a lot more time making it visually stunning. So it was a little bit of that. And then also coming in on the editing side and understanding how to edit on a quicker pace and no subtitles, no punch-ins, leaving things raw and real. So we came in with that expectation and knowing it was only 7 days, right? It was like, well, we don't have time to adjust. So we kind of need to start as if we're starting on day 15, being in a rhythm already, you know, instead of like starting out and being like, well, we'll figure it out as we go, you know, because there was only four days that were actually live, right? Where we were out and doing something and then people were watching them.
Is it logistically more difficult to book a video internationally rather than domestically?
I'd say for the most part, it's pretty similar, but specifically when you start dealing with like Japan, they just do things very differently. And if you are not a month or two ahead planning for Japan, it's significantly harder. Like whenever we did Most Futuristic City and Ancient City, Ryan let me know that we were doing that on Monday and he was going to be flying out Thursday. And so I was like, oh no, like this is so bad, because I had experience from when we did that Japan batch film in 2022, I believe. And I had lots of time for that. But then I knew these train schedules and these hard to get trains are going to be extra hard to get and people are not going to be flexible, you know? Right. So like I had friends calling like the embassy in Japan and trying to get in contact with JR Rail so that we could get some of these tickets. And they were like, absolutely not. We're not going to bend. So it's, yeah, in certain ways, international is definitely more logistically challenging, and especially because Ryan typically likes to get his shoots done quick. So I'm always having to figure out a way to balance his rest, having him have energy for videos, but also get him maybe around the world and back in like 6 days.
It sounds like there's a huge emphasis on like visuals. Where do you go to like make sure the places you're sending him look good? Is it like Google Maps or is it like Instagram, like photos of other people from other people?
It's a mix. I'd say it's mostly like Google Maps. You know, I'll give him itineraries and I will literally have screenshots of like Street View on Google Maps and then like a location that he can hyperlink to on Apple Maps. And it'll be like, here from this angle, this is the shot, you know?
Oh, wow.
And so it is that simple. And then there's other times where it's like, we'll see an Instagram post and it's like, I need to figure out where this is, and then I actually end up going to Google Maps anyways just to find that out. But yeah.
Do you have a bulletproof way of getting a yes from an outreach?
I think the way that I typically approach things where I need to get a yes from somebody in order to do them is I'll give them just the amount of information that I know is not overwhelming. And so I'll say, hey, I'm with Ryan. I'll link the channel, right? And then I'll say, we're really interested in doing this, and we want to highlight this, and this is how it benefits you, and this is how we're not going to be a burden to you, and really pride ourselves on family-friendly content, and we're not like the typical what people think of as a YouTuber, right? And so I'll do that, and then they'll start to reach back out and talk, and as we get deeper into the process, I'll give them a lot more solids of information, and they'll have some ideas, and I'll be like, oh, actually, we're thinking this. But that starting out in a way where I'm presenting it as this is easy for you, which it always is, right? We never want to burden anybody. So it's not like I'm lying. I'm not lying, but it's just presenting the information in an order in which it's easily digestible by them, rather than saying, hey, we have 25 people on our production that want to come here and do this thing, and we want to film this. Will you say yes? It's more so starting a conversation and then getting them agreeable and then saying, cool, we're ready to move whenever you are. And it typically works. So
do you do that with hotels as well? Do you even tell the hotel, or do you just show up, spend the night?
It depends. For most the 1-star hotels, we just show up. We just book it. Even Airbnbs, we'll just book it and go. We don't want to overcomplicate things and create issues where there might not be issues.
I can't imagine anyone would want to be in a video that says, hey, we're filming a video called I stayed in 1-star hotels. Can we stay in your hotel?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the vlog series. So you did Penny Series 1, you did Penny Series 2. Now you are at the point where you're thinking about doing another vlog series, this time 50 states in 50 days. That was an overwhelming success. And, also there was a fundraiser tacked onto it that was massively successful. Take me back before filming that and give me kind of the timeline of events when this all got started and what you were thinking going into this vlog series compared to the other two.
So I got started researching everything in November of last year. So I worked on it for 7 months beforehand. And that was literally just Ryan had the idea. Well, we all were talking about possibly doing another daily series, but then Ryan had the idea of it'd be sick if we did 50 states in 50 days. And then, just kind of tacking on to what's been working for us over the past year, which was Airbnbs. So it was this would be super fun and interesting. And he gets to give people a peek into his life with, traveling with Haley. That was the idea, because it genuinely was a bucket list thing for them to be able to do that. So, last November, I started literally just going on Airbnb state by state, just scrolling through 50 pages of Airbnbs, and then changing dates and figuring out when are all these available. And then I would find all the states kind of surrounding Texas, and then I'd find cool Airbnbs, make sure they were available on these general dates. And then from that point, I started figuring out the route and is this one available on this day? And then at this state, is this one available? And then I'd go find a, roadblock, have to back up, figure it out, find a new Airbnb, whatever that was That whole process probably took about 3 or 4 months. And then from that point, it was okay, we have everything booked. Let's reach out to the Airbnbs that have no filming rules and make sure that we're good to film. Let's talk to people whose maybe this is their personal home and pay extra fees or whatever it may be so that we could do it. And just making sure overall that everything was in one place. I had a master sheet of an itinerary for him with dates, codes, rules, things he needed to know, places he could go, and so that was also another thing, was researching around the areas where he could go to, because we were this wouldn't be fun if it was only these Airbnbs. If he was just going and showing the inside of houses, which I think was great, but also we thought it was kind of a vehicle of being able to see America, right? Another thing where we talked about with the European Penny series, a lot of people aren't going to be able to see a lot of these states in their life. So let's actually take them on this road trip and let's like let them see America in a way that a lot of people can't see it. And so it was like researching, are there events going on? Is there people that live near it that could come and, you know, help out and do things like that? Like Nick, we reached out to Nick and thought it'd be fun for him to cook a meal up there in Massachusetts. And then like Dr. Mike reached out to us, and this was like during the filming, but they reached out to us, and that was a surprise that me and Dr. Mike planned for Ryan and Haley. Yeah, so cool, he had no idea that was happening. So that was genuine. But so it was just like logistically extremely heavy for sure.
And you kept track again in like a giant Notion page? Yeah,
it was I had like a Google Docs sheet, and it was like 54 pages, and then it was just like a list of all the 50 states in order with the dates and communication, important things to know, and then there was page by page a full sheet of all the information they needed on the house, addresses, places to go, things to do, rules, check-in codes. So it's just like a one-stop shop that Ryan could go and see everything he needs to see for that day and the upcoming days.
What were like the contingencies you had to be aware of? Like if an Airbnb bailed at last minute, that would have been super challenging to solve. That
was a big one. Was just making sure that a lot of these didn't bail. Like specifically, we found out like the month before that the Frank Lloyd Wright one in Arizona was on the market. And so we had to reach out and be like, hey, if this sells, like, are we good? Because we were like, we really wanted to do that Airbnb. And they were like, oh yeah, we have it in the contract where people have to honor the Airbnbs out for at least this many months. And I was like, great. But yeah, that was like the big contingency. And then obviously like issues on the road, like you never know, right? If his car breaks down or pop tire, or, you know, roads are shut down, things like that. And it's like, okay, what's our backup options? How are we going to do this? And then Wheel of Doom stuff, it was like, you know, if he gets like a reverse card, like this could be detrimental on certain days.
Sure.
And it was like, you know, just there was certain things we couldn't avoid, but just like being aware of what punishments could happen at what points, and just knowing at least some way of overcoming them. Did
you have second options in case? Did you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
I definitely had like, I would do that, you know, probably like 10 days in advance. I didn't have like 50 of them listed out, but it was like, as we moved on, I would go forward and be like, here's a backup just in case. So there was always an option. Or if like another thing that we were worried about was like getting like doxxed. Like we found out, you know, early that like actually we had someone email us and say they looked at the back end of St. Jude's website and they're like, hey, I can see all the addresses of every Airbnb.
No kidding.
Yeah. And like, it was awesome that the person that found that was a good person, right? You know, so we were able to remedy that situation really quickly because they emailed us. It was like day 3 before the videos were even live. So we just got lucky, but that was another thing. It was like, man, if we get doxxed, like this could be an issue, you know? Yeah.
You did not go along for the ride with this one, unless you hit it you didn't. So that was a decision that was different from the Penny series. What kind of new logistics got introduced there?
You know, as like a creative director, I don't have a hand in any of the filming or even seeing what's going on, right? So there was like a relative level of like uncertainty and making sure, because there would be some times where you'd get all the footage back and it'd be like, oh, I really wish you would have done this. And then you have to communicate that, you know, across. And that was mainly an issue in the first like 10 days of just like a lot of voice notes back and forth of like, hey, I really think you should do this. I'm thinking this. And
also, if you're in the middle of rural America, just the confidence in the internet speed of sending footage over and making sure that your team gets it in time and is able to turn around quickly.
Right. We never really had any issues with that, luckily. I mean, the Starlink served us extremely well, and the Wi-Fi was great in a lot of these Airbnbs, luckily. But yeah, I mean, in the New York Airbnb, in the listing, it was like no cellular service, no Wi-Fi, nothing. You are off grid. And so that was like our big one. We were like, the Starlink better work, and it was great. Yeah, we never had any issues of like, we don't have all the footage whenever they're starting the next day. When they woke up, they had everything, which was great.
The editors.
Yeah.
Was their life sustainable during all of these things?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Yeah, to be completely frank and honest, no. By day by day 30, they were like so exhausted. I mean, they're pulling like 16-hour days every single day. They're tanks. I mean, they deserve all the praise in the world for this whole series. It would be nothing without them, obviously. And I mean, they just did it. I can't believe it.
Did you have any like rules, like we can only have them travel so many miles a day, or it has to be like within a certain distance, or like things like that you like don't break when you're planning something like this?
Generally, it was like, let's try to not have any days longer than 10 hours. And there were points
like
where
driving,
that was
or like
of driving.
Everything?
No, of driving. Yeah, everything was unavoidable, especially when the Wheel of Doom started going. It was like it was really hard to get any kind of sustainable days or easy days for them. But it was like, if there was a really, really cool Airbnb in North Montana, it was like, we can't do that. Yeah, it's a 12-hour drive, and then immediately turning around to another 12-hour drive. So it was like, let's lower our standards just a little bit so that, this can be actually done, because with drives like that, one bad Wheel of Doom spin and it's over. So it was a big thing of like keeping the drives at least short.
So for people who are maybe considering doing like a 30-day vlog series for themselves, do you have any kind of advice or any kind of like, be aware of this before you pull the trigger on it?
I think my main advice is just don't let yourself be okay with missing a day. Like, you really have to. I think that there's so much value in hitting it every single day and consistency. I mean, there were people when we were doing the Penny series who were trying to also do series at the same time, and they would miss an upload. And it's like, immediately you lose all trust of the viewer. You lose the routine aspect. You lose the fact that they're like, oh, well, they're just going to miss again, or they don't care, or things like that. So it's like, don't even address it. Just do it, and like, don't start it unless you can achieve that. And also do it in a way where you can achieve it. Don't be crazy with yourself. Don't set these lofty expectations of things that are just genuinely impossible to do, right? And I think that the thing that people, if they want to do a series, really need to get into their head is it's not a typical YouTube video, and you shouldn't expect it to be, right? It's something else entirely. I mean, it's closer to Casey Neistat than it is to Mr. Beast. And so you have to accept that role of it, that it's going to be a little bit more raw. It's going to be a little bit more unpolished in a way, but that's the magic of it.
And the numbers are probably going to be different as well, right? Like, if
absolutely
a 30-day series, if it's not gaining a ton of traction up front, or maybe it's gaining more traction, like, you can't really compare it to your other content because it's so different, and the performance will be different of it. I don't think you can just do Casey Neistat style vlogs, or the stuff from 2015, 2016 anymore, where it's a day in my life. You have to have some kind of like tentpole substance to it.
Right.
How do you know whether some kind of tentpole idea is worth adding into the content, or if it's not the right kind of thing for the vlog itself?
It's interesting, but I think a lot of that is, truly just like vibe, right? Like, does it vibe with you? Does it vibe with what people expect of you? And is it something that's going to tell a story that wraps up in a bow by the end of it? Because whether or not people are gifted storytellers or even understand storytelling, humans in general are searching for everything wrapped up pretty nice in a bow, at least in some aspect. Like, every day of the Penny series, we had some mini arc wrap up in a bow, right? Like, going and getting dinner with this one guy, or like going and doing our laundry. And then it was like, at the end, it was like, oh, we accomplished our thing for the day.
Do you have like a story framework, or like, what is a story for you guys?
No, because it changes so much with every video. We have a good understanding of the way that we want to tell our stories. It's so hard because we don't really talk about it all that much, really, other than like establishing a B plot and then having like an intro and a finale. But I think that the natural progression that we always go for is some kind of transformation. Leave the story better than you found it, or you leave yourself better than you came into it with, right? So there's some kind of positive and uplifting transformation through every story that we tell, whether that's someone else, ourselves, or even just a challenge, right? It's just something where it can be better, better than you found it. So
what's your favorite video that you've worked on, or what's been the most rewarding one?
My favorite video is the Loneliest Job. I just love that video so much. I think the experience was a big part of it because me, Ryan, and Zach all went to that. So it was like going to this remote lighthouse island in the Arctic Circle was just seeing the Northern Lights. Like, it was just unreal. Like, it was a crazy experience. But also, I think there was just something about the story that we told in that video with Elena, and she was such an incredible person. Her and Frud were such great people, and the way that we presented that, and the kind of the overarching story of like loneliness versus doing what you love, and when you do something you care about, you're not lonely anymore. It's about doing what you love. So I just love that whole story and the experience of that. So that's definitely my favorite video by far.
Nice. Yeah, great video. That was the one that I was thinking about from like a potential logistics nightmare. Like, first of all, you have to find that this person exists, and then you have to make sure that they're okay with you coming there, and it's not easy to get there, and a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, that was specifically the one I was thinking about when I was kind of presenting something to somebody, right? Because, she's running this old lighthouse and restoring it and doing these things, and it's like the last thing she wants is like 3 young YouTubers to come in there and do whatever. But she was incredible, and that was definitely one where I was like, hey, this would be great. And it just so happened to work out where she was restoring it in order to have people come out and do a whole experience. So it was kind of we were able to present it like this could get you a lot of eyes on your experience. So
do you have like a least favorite video?
Oh yeah, 100%. Shrek Fest for sure. We just came off of the Penny series thinking we could do whatever we wanted.
Gotcha.
We got humbled very quickly. And I think we were so exhausted from the Penny series, and we took a long break. And even filming that, like, we forgot our camera at the hotel. We didn't have like a certain ticket. We forgot, it was just like everything was so bad from start to finish, and we had no control over it. And then the video itself didn't do that great. So it's like nothing about it was that good.
How do you know when to like cut a video? Like, this video is not good enough. Like,
oh man, we've only had to do that a couple times, and we've actually only ever had to do it once where we had the whole video filmed, which was crazy. That's so rare for us. But I think it was just like, as we were planning it out or filming it, it was like, number one, this is not interesting. The idea may be interesting, the title may be interesting, but the actual content is not interesting. And it's not exactly what the title's promising, and there's no way to get it to that point. It may be like more of like a fantasy type thing or whatever it is. It's just an abstract concept that sounds interesting when it's spoken, but then when practiced in real life, it might not live up to those expectations. Then after that, like, for example, with the one that we filmed and didn't post, the reason we cut that was it just was not the vibe. It was not a Ryan Trahan video. It was positive and it was happy, but it just like felt off in a weird way. And it was like definitely reaching out of our comfort zone in a way that we aren't pushing the envelope, but more so like, I don't know. It really was just a vibe thing of like, this is just wrong. I don't think people are going to take to this well.
And it took all the way into the end of like to editing it to make that decision, eh?
Yeah. Once we started seeing it laid out on a timeline and the story not coming together the way we wanted it to, it was like, nah. Let's just scan it. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you, Preston, is one that I like to ask everybody. Who is a creator that's on your radar that you really like right now?
I love Jesse James West. He's just really cool. I'm big into fitness. I'm a bodybuilder. So, and the way that he has so elevated himself beyond the fitness niche into a realm like ours, which is extremely broad, is something that is extremely challenging, and I respect him deeply for being able to do it in the way that he has. So,
Preston, thank you so much for joining the show, for being an early guest. It was great chatting with you, hearing your side of the story, your insights.
Thank you guys so much. This is so fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching and listening to this episode of the Gimbal Podcast. If you liked it, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing or leaving us a review. If you want to watch another episode, I recommend my interview with Harper Makowski, the head of production for MKBHD. I'll see you there.